of renunciation. And it's a long chapter, and maybe it may require more than one session, which we will leave it to Maharaj, 1, 2, or 3 sessions, as he deems fit. So without much ado, we now move on to Maharaj to begin the session. But before we do so, let's all pay our respects to Maharaj. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripasindhubhyaeva patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Thank you again, Maharaj, and over to you.
Hare Krishna. So we will begin. This is the final chapter of Bhagavad Gita, entitled Conclusion, the Perfection of Renunciation. So I have created a kind of five different sections, which appropriately spells smile. Smile means we should all be smiling by the mercy of the Lord. So the first smile, S, is summary of Karma Yoga, text 1 to 18. Then we have M, modes of nature, 19 to 40. Then we have ideal worker, or as we spoke last time, Kshetra, Kshetragya. It is in verses 41 to 55. Then love of Godhead, developing bhakti and attraction, attachment to the Lord, is 56 to 66. And finally, the end result, 67 to 68. And basically, as is mentioned by Prabhupada, that this chapter 18 is summarization of the whole Bhagavad Gita, and therefore you will find all the different chapters which we have studied in the past are summarized here in a short but very concise way. So Krishna explains the meaning of renunciation and the effects of modes of nature on human consciousness activities. He explains Brahman realization, the glories of Bhagavad Gita, and the ultimate conclusion of the Gita. The highest path of religion is absolute, unconditional, loving surrender unto Lord Krishna, which frees one from all sins, brings one to complete enlightenment, enables one to return to Krishna's eternal spiritual abode. This is a summation of Prabhupada giving us in the beginning of chapter 18. So I am going to give a little bit insight of the understanding of what is the purpose of Krishna consciousness from citing text from the 10th canto, chapter 1, text 3. The super soul, the supreme personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, is the cause of the cosmic manifestation, appeared in the dynasty of Yadu. Please tell me elaborately about his glorious activities and the character from the beginning to the end of his life. So of course, Parikshit Maharaj is asking Sukadeva Goswami about the entire pastimes of Krishna. And of course, as we all know, the 10th canto is giving us very elaborate descriptions of Krishna's different pastimes. Then the purport, Prabhupada says, in these words, the words Kritavan, Yani, indicates that all the different activities Krishna performed while present on earth are beneficial to human society. If religionists, philosophers, and people in general simply hear the activities of Krishna, they will be liberated. We have described several times that there are two kinds of Krishna Katha, represented by Bhagavad Gita, spoken personally by Krishna about himself, and Srimad Bhagavatam, spoken by Sukadeva Goswami about the glories of Krishna. Anyone who becomes even slightly interested in Krishna Katha is liberated. Kirtanat eva Krishnasya mukta sangas param vijayate. Simply by chanting or repeating Krishna Katha, one is liberated from the contamination of Kali Yuga. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu therefore advised, Yare dekho tare kaho Krishna upades. This is the mission of Krishna consciousness, to hear about Krishna and thus be liberated from material bondage. So I have taken this excerpt from that purport where Krishna is in the Bhagavatam is explained by Prabhupada. We have described several times there are two kinds of Krishna Katha, represented by Bhagavad Gita spoken personally by Krishna about himself, and Srimad Bhagavatam spoken by Sukadeva Goswami about the glories of Krishna. Anyone who becomes even slightly interested in Krishna Katha is liberated. This is a very important point Prabhupada is making, that if we are attracted little bit towards hearing about Krishna Katha, and here he is categorizing two, Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. So right now we are going through the chapters of Bhagavad Gita, and at the end, when we finish all 18 chapters, we should become very much attracted to Krishna and then become realized to some extent what Krishna's message is. So the first one is summary of Karma Yoga, text 1 to 18. So text 1, O Arjuna, O mighty armed one, I wish to understand the purpose of renunciation, Tyaga, and the renounced order of sannyas, O killer of Kasi, demon, master of the senses. So Arjuna is asking Krishna that all the time you are speaking about renunciation, being detached. What is the difference between renunciation and the renounced order of which is sannyas? So actually the Bhagavad Gita is finished in the 17th chapter. The 18th chapter is a supplementary summarization of the topics discussed before. This is Prabhupada is elaborating further in the purport. In every chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna stresses that devotional service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the ultimate goal of life. The same point is summarized in the 18th chapter, the most confidential path of knowledge. So Krishna is giving Arjuna so much different levels of knowledge. And finally, in the 18th chapter, he's saying this is the most confidential. And this knowledge will now bring you out of your darkness of ignorance. So in the first six chapters, the stress was given to devotional service, yoginam api sarvesam. Of all yogis or transcendentalists, one who always thinks of me within himself is best. In the next sixth chapter, pure devotional service and its nature and activities are discussed. In the third sixth chapter, knowledge, renunciation, and activities of material nature and the transcendental nature and devotional service are described. So Bhagavad Gita is split into three different sections. One is, of course, beginningly setting up the scene and explaining Arjuna his position. Next chapter, 6 chapters are describing the process of bhakti. And the final 6 chapters are actually accumulating in the actual understanding of devotional service and to renounce all our material attachments. The third part of Bhagavad Gita has shown that devotional service and nothing else is ultimate purpose of life. This has been established by citing the past acharyas, the Brahma Sutra or the Vedanta Sutra. So of course, in the 7th chapter, we understood when Krishna is saying, by the Vedas, I am to be known. And when we know Krishna, and what is the purpose of knowing Krishna? Is to surrender to him in the loving exchanges of service, which is pleasing to the Supreme Lord Krishna. So this is the ultimate goal of Bhagavad Gita. 18th chapter is also a summary of all instructions given. The purpose of life is indicated to be renunciation and attainment of transcendental position above the three modes of material nature. Arjuna wants to clarify the two distinct subject matters in the Bhagavad Gita, namely renunciation, tyaga, and the renounced order of life, sannyas. Thus, he is asking the meaning of these two words. Now, of course, the word tyaga and sannyas are actually going side by side, complementing each other. Renunciation means being free from material attachments, and sannyas is actually putting that into practice. So, 4 orders leading to renunciation. The first one is brahmachari. In brahmachari is student, personal restraint, study of scripture, guru seva. Second is grihastha, householder, social duties without attachment. Vanaprastha, detachment from social duties, focus on spiritual goals. And of course, final sannyas, fully detached from social duties, focus on enlightening society and mankind. So, first stage is brahmachari, where we practice bhakti under the guidance of the spiritual master. In the second grihastha, of course, we practice household life and rules, social activities, but with the understanding and guidance from the scriptures. So we see here a beautiful couple of husband and wife, a young kid doing kirtan, living very simply. In background, you see cows. Prabhupada said ideal householder means you have little land, a cow, and you till the land, take the milk, and live very simple. Of course, next stage is vanaprastha, where the husband and wife are fully free from any social commitments and duties, where they then go on pilgrimage to holy places and meet different saintly persons, get to know more and more about spiritual values of life. And then finally, of course, take sannyas and be renounced. So Arjuna wants to clarify the two distinct subject matters of Bhagavad Gita, namely renunciation, tyaga, and the renounced order of life, sannyas. Thus, he's asking the meaning of these two words. The two words used in this verse to address the Supreme Lord, Rishikesh and Kesi Nisudhan, are significant. Rishikesh is Krishna, the master of all senses, who can always help us maintain, who can always help us attain mental serenity. Arjuna requests him to summarize everything in such a way that he can remain equipoised. Yet, he has some doubts, and doubts are always compared to demons. He therefore addresses Krishna as Kesi Nisudhan. Kesi was the most formidable demon who was killed by the Lord. Now, Arjuna is expecting Krishna to kill the demon of doubt. So obviously, we all have doubts, and these doubts sometimes arises from our heart and confuses us what is our real duty in life. And therefore, here Arjuna is specifically requesting Krishna that you, dear Lord, kill these doubts by the torchlight of knowledge so that I can be free from any doubts. So in the next text 2, the Supreme Personality of God has said, the giving up of activities that are based on material desire is what a great learned man call the renounced order of life, sannyas. And giving up the results of all the activities is what the wise call renunciation, tyaga. So of course, now here Krishna is very clearly saying, Arjuna, what's the difference between sannyas and tyaga? The performer of activities from the result has to be given up. This is the instruction of Bhagavad Gita. But activities leading to advanced spiritual knowledge are not to be given up. So we have to be very careful and understand the distinction. The performance of activities which result from material interaction with the world should be given up. At the same time, Krishna is saying, but activities leading to advanced spiritual knowledge are not to be given up. So these we should become very much attached to, and these instructions should become very dear to us so that it will free us from darkness of ignorance and lead us to knowledge. So in the text 4, O best of Bharatas, now hear my judgment about renunciation. O tiger among men, renunciation is declared in the scriptures to be of three kinds. So again, Krishna is now saying that this is my final judgment. Hear about these things. And in the previous chapters, we have understood that everything is categorized in the material world under the three categories of three modes: mode of goodness, mode of passion, and mode of ignorance. So everything, whatever we do in the material world is within these three categories. And therefore, Krishna is saying, oh, Arjuna, rise above these three modes. So here, Krishna is going to further elaborate the summarization of all the 17 chapters, where he's specifically indicating each activities, how they're affected, and how we can become detached from it. And the Prabhupada says, although there are difference of opinion about renunciation, here the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, gives his judgment, which should be taken as final. After all, the Vedas are different laws given by the Lord. Here the Lord is personally present in his words, and his word should be taken as final. The Lord says that the process of renunciation should be considered in terms of the modes of material nature in which they are performed. So in text 5, Krishna is saying, acts of all sacrifice, charity, and penance are not to be given up. They must be performed indeed. Sacrifice, charity, and penance purify even the great souls. So of course, here Krishna is saying what we should not give up. What we should give up is those activities which further entangles us into the materialistic way of thinking, materialistic way of life, and being more attached to material fruits and results rather than Krishna, the Supreme Lord. So here Krishna says, the sacrifices, the charities and penances should not be given up, but this also purifies great souls, or to speak of ordinary souls. Then the purport Prabhupada says, the yogis should perform acts for the advancement of human society. There are many purificatory processes for advancing the human being to spiritual life. The marriage ceremony, for example, is considered to be one of these sacrifices. It is called Vivaha Yagya. To the sannyasi who is in the renounced order of life and who has given up his family relations, encourage marriage ceremony. The Lord says here that any sacrifices which is meant for human welfare should never be given up. Vivaha Yagya, the marriage ceremony, is meant to regulate the human mind so that it may become peaceful for spiritual advancement. So, of course, as I mentioned earlier on, from brahmachari, under the guidance of the spiritual master, you take the household life, and the household life is conducted according to the teachings of the spiritual master, which he has he has taught you for from the age of 5 to age of 25 under the guidance, and he's fully matured and knows what are your responsibilities in the household life. And therefore, when you perform household activities, you will do it according to the scriptural injunction. So in text 6, all the activities should be performed without attachment or any expectation of result. They should be performed as a matter of duty, O son of Pritha. That is my final opinion. So Krishna is again giving his final opinion that whatever actions and activities we perform should be done without any expectation of result. As also mentioned many times previously, in Upanishad, Krishna says that I am the doer, I am the giver of everything. Again, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Karmanyava adhikarastu ma phaleshu kadacha. So just do your duty sincerely and honestly. The results I will take care of because I know what is best for an individual. So in purport, Prabhupada says, all the sacrifices are purifying. One should not expect any result by such performance. In other words, all sacrifice which are meant for material advancement in life should be given up. But sacrifices that purify one's existence and elevate one to the spiritual plane should not be stopped. Everything that leads to Krishna consciousness must be encouraged. Text 7. Prescribed duties should never be renounced. If one gives up his prescribed duties because of illusion, such renunciation is said to be in mode of ignorance. So of course, again, here Krishna is saying that we should do our prescribed duties. We should not forsake our duties. We must adhere to them according to the scriptural injunction, according to the guidance of the acharyas. But if we give up such activities, then they are in mode of ignorance. So this is again, Krishna is giving about the 3 modes of material nature. So things we should know, we should be very, very mindful that we do not give up our duties which are given to us as depending on which ashram you belong to, brahmachari, grihastha, vanaprastha, or sannyas. The Prabhupada says in the purport, work for material satisfaction must be given up. But activities which promote one to spiritual activity, like cooking for the Supreme Lord and offering food to the Lord, and then accepting the food, are recommended. So these are some activities which we perform in our daily activities, whether we are a devotee or a non-devotee. Sustenance is required, food is cooked, but here is Prabhupada is explaining that whatever we eat should be offered very nicely to the Supreme Lord for his pleasure. And after offering to him, we accept that prasadam, and that is recommended because prasadam purifies one's mind, one's heart, and one's consciousness. Text 8. Anyone who gives up the prescribed duties as troublesome or out of fear for bodily discomfort is said to have renounced in the mode of passion. Such actions never lead to elevation of renunciation. So again, of course, sometimes we are in a difficult situation, some bodily troubles are there, some discomfort is there, and therefore we give up all these activities just to be comfortable. But again, here Krishna is saying these are in mode of passion, which is not going to help you at all. So in purport, Prabhupada is further elaborating this. One who is in Krishna consciousness should not give up earning money out of fear that he is performing fruitive activities. If by working one can engage his money in Krishna consciousness, or if by rising early in the morning one can advance his transcendental Krishna consciousness, one should not be sick out of fear or because such activities are considered troublesome. Such renunciation is in mode of passion. And of course, this is the final one, which is duties performed in the mode of goodness, as Krishna is saying, or Arjuna. When one performs his prescribed duty only because it ought to be done and renounces all material association and all attachment to the fruits, his renunciation is said to be in mode of goodness. So this is a self-explanatory that anything which we do should lead us to become more attracted and attached to Krishna and associate with Krishna and give up material association. And this is in mode of goodness. So Prabhupada is saying, prescribed duties must be performed with his mentality, with this mentality. One should act without attachment for the results. He should be disassociated from the modes of work. A man working in Krishna consciousness in a factory does not associate himself with the work of the factory, nor with the workers of the factory. He simply works for Krishna. And when he gives up the results for Krishna, he's acting in transcendental platform. So he's acting transcendentally. So of course, as we mentioned previously also, that this is a very important aspect to understand in our lives, that we will perform many activities in our different occupations, but we should not associate our work with those things. Rather, we should feel that this is service which I'm doing, livelihood I'm earning is for the pleasure of Krishna, and whatever I receive from this work should be used for Krishna, and therefore you are on a transcendental platform. Text 8. Intelligent renouncers situated in the mode of goodness neither hateful or inauspicious work nor attached to auspicious work. So Krishna is saying neither hateful of inauspicious work nor attached to auspicious work. For him, all work is transcendental because it is done for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. Has no doubt about his work. So Krishna is very clear saying, don't be doubtful about this thing. Whatever you're doing, as long as it is done in connection with Krishna, then you should neither be hateful or considered inauspicious or auspicious. Everything is auspicious in the service of Krishna. A person in Krishna consciousness or in the mode of goodness does not hate anyone or anything which troubles his body. He does work in the proper place and at the proper time without fearing the troublesome effects of his duty. Such a person situated in transcendence should be understood to be the most intelligent and beyond all doubts in his activities. Text 13. Almighty armed Arjuna, according to the Vedanta, there are 5 causes for the accomplishment of all actions. Now, learn these from me. So Krishna is now further explaining to Arjuna the 5 different kinds of activities we are entangled in the material world, and he is elaborating them. And Prabhupada is giving these. A question may arise that since any activity performed must have some reaction, how is it that a person in Krishna consciousness does not suffer or enjoy the reaction of work? The Lord is citing Vedanta philosophy to show how this is possible. He says that there are 5 causes for all activities, and for success in all activities, one should consider these 5 causes. So what are these 5 causes? In text 14, Krishna is saying the place of action, the body, the performer, the person, the various senses which we use for performing these actions, many different kinds of endeavors, and ultimately the super soul. These are the 5 factors of actions. So the body is the field of action which we discussed in the previous chapters, and the body and the performer who uses the body to perform these acts by using the 5 senses, and ultimately these 5 senses and the performer engages in different kinds of activities, Brahmanical activities, Kshatriya activities, Vaishya activities, Sudra activities, and if you're properly situated, then it leads you to having higher understanding the super soul, the Lord himself. So the instruments of actions are the senses. And by the senses, the soul acts in various ways. For each and every action, there is different endeavor. but all one's activities depend on the will of the super soul. One who is seated within the heart of the friend. So here is very clearly Prabhupada is saying that all the activities which we perform, they are of different kinds of endeavors, everything, but all one's activities depend on the will of the super soul, who is seated within the heart as a friend. The super soul is there accompanying you as a friend, as a well-wisher, and is guiding you. But sometimes we are so overwhelmed by material understanding and material desires that we forget the instructions of the super soul in the heart, and then we whimsically act. So here is saying that all activities are done by the will of the super soul. Of course, the super soul, he has given you independence, and sometimes we may have some desires which are against the principle of Krishna consciousness. However, Krishna says, that is what you want, I will permit you to do it, but be careful. The consequences of that, those activities will be that you will be further entangled in material world. So the Supreme Lord is the super cause. Under these circumstances, he who is acting in Krishna consciousness under the direction of the super soul is situated within his heart, is naturally not bound by any activity. Those in complete Krishna consciousness are not ultimately responsible for their actions. Everything is dependent on the supreme will, the super soul, and the supreme personality of Godhead. So Prabhupada is very clearly saying that if we are properly situated in Krishna consciousness, then there are no adverse consequences, but it is done by the will of the Supreme to help the living entity come out of his ignorance and become spiritually enlightened. So the second stage of the smile is aim, modes of nature, and these are discussed in the text 19 to 40. So in text 19, according to the three different modes of material nature, there are three different kinds of knowledge, action, and performer of action. Now hear them from me. So now Krishna is further elaborating the different kinds of knowledges, different kinds of actions one perform, or different kinds of performers of action are in three modes, and Krishna is going to elaborate them further. So Prabhupada is saying in the 14th chapter, the three divisions of the modes of material nature were elaborately described. In that chapter, it was said that the mode of goodness is illuminating, the mode of passion is materialistic, the mode of ignorance is conducive to laziness and indolence. All the modes of material nature are binding. They are not source of liberation. Even in the mode of goodness, one is conditioned. In the 17th chapter, the different types of worship by different types of men in different modes of material nature were described. In this verse, the Lord says that he wishes to speak about the different types of knowledge, workers, and work itself, according to the three modes of material nature. So the first is knowledge. Now this is described in the three texts, text 20, 21, and 22. So the knowledge by which one, undivided spiritual nature is seen in all living entities, though they are divided into innumerable forms. You should understand to be in mode of goodness. So Krishna is very clearly saying that when we see things in nature which are multifarious, but if you see them in connection to Supreme Lord, then you are in mode of goodness. A person who sees one spirit soul in every living being, whether demigods, human beings, animals, beasts, birds, aquatics, or plants, possesses knowledge in mode of goodness. So of course, in the purport of Prabhupada saying that equivision should be there, that regardless of what kind of bodies we have acquired, that is external covering, but the spirit soul is the same part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. And that knowledge is in mode of goodness. The knowledge by which one sees that in every different body, there is a different type of living entity, you should understand to be in mode of passion. So of course here, if you try to see that each living entity is a body and not a spirit soul, and they are differentiated by their external coverings, and that is knowledge in mode of passion. Prabhupada further explains that the concept that the material body is a living entity, and that with the destruction of the body, the consciousness is also destroyed, is called knowledge in mode of passion. So of course, most materialist people think that when you die, then that's it, that's the end of you. There is no more further actions or the living entity ceases to exist at the point of death. But scriptures explain differently. The knowledge given in the Vedas is different, which says the spirit soul is never killed, but it transmigrates into different body according to one's activities. So in text 22, and that knowledge by which one is attached to one kind of work as all in one. Sorry, one kind of work as the all in all, without knowledge of the truth, and which is very meager, is said to be in the mode of darkness. Now, Prabhupada is saying the knowledge of the common man is always in the mode of darkness or ignorance, because every living entity is conditional. Every living entity in conditional life is born into mode of ignorance. One who does not develop knowledge through the authorities or scriptural injunction has knowledge that is limited to the body. He is not concerned about acting in terms of direction of the scriptures. But for him, God is money, and knowledge means the satisfaction of bodily demands. Such knowledge has no connection with the absolute truth. It is more or less like the knowledge of the ordinary animal, the knowledge of eating, sleeping, defending, and mating. Such knowledge is described here as the product of mode of darkness. So, of course, Prabhupada says many times that generally, if you're not enlightened in the spiritual ways of thinking, then our only concern is eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. And these are four propensities of animalistic life, whether they are done in a gross level or in very polished and very sophisticated level. Nonetheless, the activities are same, which are animalistic. So we have to raise from the animalistic platform to come to a human platform where we can actually inquire to the higher subject matter. So after the first is explaining knowledge, now action. That action which is regulated and which is performed without attachment is said to be in the mode of goodness. That's text 23. Text 24 is saying, but action performed with great effort by one seeking to gratify his desires is action in mode of passion. So in the first one, if we perform acts which are regulated by scriptures without detachment, then is mode of goodness. Second, if you perform activities which are simply for gratifying the senses, is mode of passion. And that action performed in illusion is disregarding of scriptural injunction is said to be in mode of ignorance. So one who disregards everything and just doesn't care and performs all kinds of activities thinking this is life, then that is, of course, in mode of ignorance. Then the Prabhupada says, regulated occupational duties as prescribed in the scriptures in terms of different orders and divisions of society, performed without attachment or proprietary rights, and therefore without any love or hatred, and performed in Krishna consciousness for the satisfaction of the Supreme, without satisfaction of the Supreme, without self-satisfaction or sense gratification, are called actions in mode of goodness. And third one is duty. Now, this is also, as Krishna says, perform your duties. Karmanyava adhikarastu ma phaleshu kadachan. Just do your duty. Now, these duties are according to our four divisions of four varnas and four ashrams, and we must do them according to the scriptural injunctions. So these again are in three different modes. So one in mode of goodness, one who performs his duty with great determination and enthusiasm is to be a worker in a mode of goodness. So if you perform our duties with determination, with enthusiasm, for proper understanding, then that is, of course, considered in mode of goodness. A worker who is attached to work and the fruits of the work, desiring to enjoy those fruits, is said to be in mode of passion. And a worker who is always engaged in work against the injunctions of the scriptures is said to be a worker in mode of ignorance. So again, all different works we do, whether it is done for the pleasure of the Supreme, whether it's done for the pleasure of oneself, or one who does with total disregard, is in the three modes: goodness, passion, and ignorance. When Prabhupada is saying, a person in Krishna consciousness is always transcendental to the material modes of nature. He has no expectation for the results of the work entrusted to him. Because he is above false ego and pride, still he is always enthusiastic till the completion of such work. He does not worry about the distress undertaken. He is always enthusiastic. He does not care for success or failure. He is equal in both stress and distress and happiness. Such a worker is in mode of goodness. So in text 30, 31, and 32, showing about the understanding, how we have understanding in the three different modes. So the first one in text 30 says, "O Pritha, that understanding by which one knows what ought to be done and what ought not to be done, what is to be feared and what is not to be feared, what is binding and what is liberating, is in the mode of goodness." So here Krishna is saying that our understanding should be very clear. And as I mentioned previously also, that one of the most important aspects which we have been granted as a human being is the power of discrimination, to know between right and wrong. So here Krishna is emphasizing we should know what is right, what is wrong, what is to be feared, what is not to be feared, what is binding, what is liberating. That is in mode of goodness. So we have to be very careful that our understanding is very clear according to Lord Krishna's teachings, and which is freeing us from further entanglement. So in text 31, "O son of Pritha, that understanding which cannot distinguish between religion and irreligion, between action that should be done and action that should not be done, is in the mode of passion." So again, Krishna is saying, if you are not using that power of discrimination between what is to be done, what is not to be done, then you will be very much in mode of passion. And the third one in text 32, "That understanding which considers irreligion to be religion and religion to be irreligion under the spell of illusion and darkness, and strives always in the wrong direction, O Partha, is in the mode of ignorance." So when we are in our understanding is in the mode of ignorance, then we cannot tell the differentiation between what is right and what is wrong. So here Krishna is saying what is religion is taken to be as irreligion, and irreligion is taken to as religion, and therefore there is confusion, and that leads us to further darkness and ignorance. Then the Prabhupada is saying performing actions in terms of direction from the scriptures is called pravritti marg, or pravriti, or executing actions that deserve to be performed. And actions which are not so directed are not to be performed. One who does not know the scriptural direction becomes entangled in the actions and reactions of work. Understanding the discrimination, understanding which discriminates by intelligence, is situated in mode of goodness. So again, here Prabhupada is emphasizing that the power of discrimination is there and used by intelligence, which is given by Krishna. And of course, Krishna says in the 10th chapter, text 10, that dadami buddhi yogam tvam, that I give you the intelligence by which you can know, and I will give you higher intelligence. So how we can get that dadami buddhi yoga? He says bhajadam priti purvakam. The one who worships the Lord with love and devotion, then he is granted this higher intelligence. Determination also is there in three modes, 33, 34, 35. So text 33 is saying, "Oh Pritha, that determination which is unbreakable, which is sustained with steadfastness by yoga practice, and which thus controls the activities of the mind, life, and senses, is determination in the mode of goodness." So we are steadfast, we are fixed in the practice of what we are doing according to scripture injunctions, then their determination will be considered in mode of goodness. But that determination by which one holds fast the fruitive results in religion, economic development, and sense gratification is to be in mode of passion. So when we have determination, but it is based on artha, kama, moksha, then it is considered for sense gratification, and this is in mode of passion. And that determination, which cannot go beyond dreaming, fearfulness, lamentation, moroseness, and illusion, such unintelligent determination, O son of Pritha, is to be mode of darkness. So sometimes we see that majority of the world who is in the mode of ignorance are completely overwhelmed by the materialistic way of thinking. They are so fearful, they're morose, they're illusion, and unintelligent, but they're still determined to do something which doesn't give the results which will free them or bring them happiness. In the purport, Prabhupada saying, yoga is the means to understand the supreme soul. One who is steadily fixed in the supreme soul with determination, concentrating one's mind, life, and sensory activities on the supreme, engaged in Krishna consciousness. That sort of determination is in the mode of goodness. The word avyabhicharaniya is very significant. That for it indicates that the person who are engaged in Krishna consciousness are never deviated by any other activities. Now, happiness is also of three nature: mode of goodness, mode of passion, mode of ignorance. This is described in text 37, 38, 39. So in text 36, O son of Bharata, now please hear from me about the three kinds of happiness by which the conditioned soul enjoys and by which he sometimes comes to the end of all distresses. Prabhupada is saying, a conditioned soul tries to enjoy material happiness again and again. Thus, he chews the chewed. But sometimes, in the course of such enjoyment, he becomes relieved from material entanglement by association with the great soul. In other words, a conditioned soul is always engaged in some type of sense gratification. But when he understands by good association that it is only a repetition of the same thing and he is awakened to his real Krishna consciousness, he is sometimes relieved from such repetitive so-called happiness. So we know from the scriptures, Prabhupada also saying, chewing the chewed, we are never learning from past experience that what I have already done in so many different ways is bringing the same result. But because of ignorance, we think that every time we do the same activity, we are going to get a different result. But this is completely in mode of ignorance. In real understanding, we know from experience that over and over, if you do the same activity, the results will be the same. It's not going to bring any change. So that which in the beginning may be just like poison, but at the end is just like nectar, and which awakens one to self-realization is said to be happiness in mode of goodness. So in this text, Krishna is very clearly saying that sometimes spiritual life, by our intelligent understanding, we know that this is the right thing to do, but it is very, very difficult. So Krishna is saying that in the beginning, it will be like poison. But as you become more and more focused with determination, then self-realization take place, and you will see that happiness which comes from that. So this is given example of someone who is in a disease condition, who has got jaundice. And in the beginning, when he eats sweet food, specifically it is mentioned that when you suck a sugar cane, the juice of the sugar cane tastes very bitter. But as you are freed from your disease condition, and as jaundice is being diminished by proper health, proper food and medication, then you begin to regain your original taste of sweetness. And that which was very bitter in the beginning begins to taste very sweet. So this is spiritual life. That in the beginning, we have to give up, renounce. And we think, I cannot do all this. But as you do that, then the result of that is that it will bring you self-realization, and the happiness which comes from that is unbelievable. It is incomparable in the material world. That happiness which is derived from contact of the senses and their object, and which appears like nectar at the first, but poison in the end, is said to be in nature. Is said to be the nature of passion. Now, of course, we know that when we are young, very youthful, we are enjoying our senses, and we think, wow, life is great. But very quickly time passes and you hit 50, and as at the age of 50, begin to get disease condition, and as the English statement, to the bitter end. So when you are in the beginning, it's all very rosy, very nice, and very happily situated. But as time goes, old age comes, disease condition comes, and then bitter end, just like the death, which is very, very unpleasant, is mode of passion. And that happiness which is blind to self-realization, which is delusion from beginning to the end, and which arises from sleep, laziness, and illusion, is said to be the nature of ignorance. So this nature, who are completely focused on ignorance, we see that those people who are completely from the beginning till the end, they're miserable, they're unhappy, and because of the actions they perform, as previously mentioned in the previous verses, the knowledge, the action, everything is done in mode of ignorance. It leads you that you are always lazy, you want to sleep a lot, you're illusioned, and you feel unhappy. And of course, this situation sometimes leads you to end your life prematurely in terms of committing suicide and so forth. Then the third letter of smile is I, ideal worker. So what is the ideal type of work? Krishna explains again in text 41 to 55. So these are of course in different categories. Is occupational duty. So occupational duties, as Krishna describes in text 41, Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Sudras are distinguished by the qualities born of their own nature in accordance with these material modes, or chastised or enemy. So Krishna is saying there are 4 categories which we are divided into, and these are natural, these are not artificial. These come by the qualities which are born of nature. So we are always either we have Brahmanical qualities, or we have Kshatriya qualities, or Vaishya qualities, or Sudra qualities. So as a teacher, as a Brahmana, it is mentioned by Krishna that peacefulness, self-control, austerities, purity, tolerance, honesty, knowledge, wisdom, and religiousness. These are the natural qualities by which a Brahmana works. So one who is in a Brahmanical qualities, and he is a teacher, he's an educator, he's very learned, he has all these wonderful qualities which are described here in this text of 42. So one must be very, very careful that if we fall into this category, then we know that we are Brahmanical. So we know exactly that if we have Brahmanical qualities, we are very peaceful, self-control, austerity, purity, tolerance, honesty, knowledge, wisdom, religiousness, then we act on a Brahmanical platform. Then there is the manager or organizer, which is Kshatriya. So the Kshatriya is heroism, power, determination, resourcefulness, courage in the battle, generosity, and leadership are all natural qualities of work for the Kshatriya. So if we have any of these qualities, then naturally our natural constitutional position is of Kshatriya, and therefore we do our actions, which are mentioned in the previous verses, with understanding and proper situation, then it will be considered that you are doing your duty according to your natural occupation or natural qualities. So the farmer or a businessman is a Vaishya. A Vaishya is said his occupation is basically farming, cow protection, and business are a natural work for the Vaishyas. So these are qualities which are mentioned by Krishna, that if we have this aptitude and attraction towards this kind of work, then that means that you are a Vaishya, and therefore you do this service very nicely with sincerity, and you will get the same result as one would get as a Kshatriya or a Brahmana. There is a labor class. Most of us, we fell into this class of labor, where it is considered Sudra, but this Sudra word is not very derogative. It is just a word which describes one who by nature simply works as a servant or serve others, like the Kshatriyas, the Vaishyas, and the Brahmanas. So for Sudras, there is labor and service to others. So these are the qualities which if we are in, then we simply humbly serve the other 3 classes. And when we are serving the other 3 classes, we will feel satisfaction, and naturally you will feel comfortable. For example, if someone has this quality of a laborer, and he's sweeping the streets, and he's quite happily sweeping the streets because he feels very comfortable doing that service because it is his nature. But he said, oh, my dear friend, I don't like this service, you are doing. It is very low class. It's not considered very high class. Of course, this is materialistic view. But in transcendental way, every service is high class because it is there for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. Anyway, if you take someone from that consciousness of that nature and put him in a office and say that, my dear sir, now we have elevated you to this CEO position, the chief executive officer of this company. please manage this company. That person will feel completely out of place and uncomfortable in this situation. So, of course, Krishna is describing that we have 4 categories. These are natural qualities which we have. And according to these qualities, we do our duties, then we will be very comfortable and execute our service properly in the right consciousness. The text 46, by worshipping the Lord, who is the source of all beginnings, and who is all prevailing, a man can attain perfection through performing his own work. So, of course, as I said before, that depending on which category we belong to, whether we are Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, or Sudras, if we perform our activities according to our own nature, then we will get the success in our lives. So Prabhupada says, everyone should think that he is engaged in a particular type of occupation by Rishikesh, master of senses, and the result of the work in which one is engaged, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, should be worshipped. If one thinks always in this way, in full Krishna consciousness, by the grace of the Lord, he becomes fully aware of everything. That is the perfection of life. The Lord says in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 12, text 7, Desam aham samudrata, that the Supreme Lord himself takes charge of delivering such a devotee. As we mentioned previously, that if we are sincerely following the path of Krishna consciousness and acting according to our nature, then Krishna takes charge and then he takes control of everything. So all our actions we are performed are non-binding, but they are directed by the super soul, as we mentioned in the previous verses. In whatever occupation one may be engaged, if he serves the Supreme Lord, he will achieve the highest perfection. This is without doubt. So in text 50, O son of Kunti, learn from me now. One who has achieved this perfection can attain the supreme perfectional stage, Brahman or Brahman. Understand the supreme. The stage of highest knowledge, by acting in this way, I shall now summarize. So now Krishna is going to summarize that up to this point when we have reached the perfection and we'll know the Supreme Lord. In the purport of Prabhupada saying, the Lord describes for Arjuna how one can achieve the highest perfectional stage simply by being engaged in his occupational duty. Performing that duty for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one attains the supreme stage of Brahman simply by renouncing the results of his work for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord. That is the process of self-realization. So, irregardless of what occupation we are, what duties we may perform, what action we may perform, what kind of determination we have, if it's done with the right consciousness, then and it's offered to the Supreme, and that Prabhupada says in conclusion, that is the process of self-realization. So the letter L of smile is love of Godhead. This is described in text 55 to 66. In text 55, Krishna says, one can understand me as I am, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, only by devotional service. And when one is in full consciousness of me by such devotion, he can enter into the kingdom of God. So Krishna is very clearly saying here that if we can understand him with proper understanding as he is, then we can enter into the kingdom of God. So of course, this slide, which I get inspiration from, as Prabhupada says, all these paintings are windows to the spiritual world. So Krishna is very happily playing his flute on the little stream, maybe emanating from Yamuna. The cows are grazing, cowherd boys are joyfully playing. This is perfection, and says he can enter into the kingdom of God. So this is our aspiration. This is where we want to go, where we are free from all material contamination, free from fear, and we can achieve the highest entrance in the spiritual world by performing our duties according to the instructions given in the scriptures. So Prabhupada saying, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, in his plenary portions cannot be understood by mental speculation, nor by non-devotees. If anyone wants to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he has to take to pure devotional service under the guidance of a pure devotee. Otherwise, the truth of the Supreme Personality of Godhead will always be hidden, as already stated in the Bhagavad Gita in 7:25. Naham prakasha sarvasya. He is not revealed to everyone, nor One can understand God simply by erudite scholarship or mental speculation. Only one who is actually engaged in Krishna consciousness and devotional service can understand what Krishna is. So Prabhupada is very clearly saying that we cannot understand Krishna by speculation, by intellectual understanding. Only by pure devotional service can we understand Krishna as he is. On text 63, thus I have explained to you knowledge still more confidential. Deliberate on this fully, and then do what you wish to do. So Krishna is very clearly saying to Arjuna that now that I have given you everything, I have explained to you the full aspect of Krishna consciousness from A to Z. Now you deliberate on this message which I have given to you. Contemplate on it. And then tell me what do you wish to do. So we are in the same position. When we read Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is giving us the same knowledge which he gave to Arjuna to enlighten him and free him from his illusion. Still, at the end, Krishna is giving us the same option. And now deliberate on this. Think very seriously what you want to do. When you understand this, then let me know what you wish to do, and I will then progress further and give you the right guidance according to what you wish. Whether you want to go back and enter the spiritual world or you want to come back to the material world, as you like, I will be free to guide you. So this slide shows a concept. One person up there is contemplating on the platform. The other one is taking the dive, saying, I understand and I'm going to go for it. So he said, you have to do what others want in order to achieve what others don't. So you have to do what you have to do to achieve what you have to achieve. And others will not do it because they're still contemplating. So our business is to just do it, trust Krishna. What Krishna says, just do it. And if Krishna says, trust me, then Krishna says, trust me. I know the best. I'm going to help you out of this situation. Just do as I tell you. And therefore, we have to take that jump and go into the deep end, having full faith in Krishna. So here the words, Yathashasi Tathakaru, as you like, you may act, indicates that God does not interfere with the little independence of the living entity. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord has explained in all respects how one can elevate his living condition. The best advice imparted to Arjuna is to surrender onto the super soul seated within the heart. So Krishna is saying here, and Prabhupada is elaborating the purport, that he will not interfere with you. But Krishna, out of his causeless compassion upon a living entity, he knows that living entity is in a terrible situation. He is suffering in this material world, although he doesn't recognize his suffering. But out of Krishna's compassion, he comes and enlightens us. And then he says, do what you wish. I will help you as you like. So here, as Krishna is saying, as you like, you may act. Indicate that God does not interfere with us. He has given us an option. Now, what is our option is up to us. So we may take this option and take to full surrender, or we may give up and say, no, I am quite happy in my ignorance and I want to continue in my life and try alternatives, hoping that these alternatives may bring success and happiness. But Krishna says, that's okay, you can try. But I know best, I know the real thing, and therefore I'm giving you the highest knowledge, the most confidential knowledge. Then text 64, because you are my very dear friend, I am speaking to you my supreme instructions. So Krishna is saying, because you are my very dear friend, that is why I'm speaking to you. The most confidential knowledge of all. Hear this from me, for it is for your benefit. So Krishna is saying that, look, I'm doing this because you are my friend. So of course, Krishna will not willy-nilly go to any person and say, hey, look, I'm going to give you this knowledge, whether you like it or you don't like it. But Krishna is saying that because you are my friend. So Prabhupada explains, and also scriptures explain, that when the soul in the body realizes that this world is of suffering, and then he looks up to the sky and says, God, without knowing who God is, but still he understands that there is some supreme power. God, help me. I don't know what to do now. And Krishna says, that is an indication. Now you are showing your indication that you want to guidance from me. I will now interfere with you and give you a right understanding and free you from all your illusion. And that's why Krishna says, hear from me, for it is for your benefit. So Krishna is saying, I am giving this knowledge because you are my very dear friend. And therefore, Krishna will only really interact with us when we show our indication that Krishna, yes, I want you to help me. Please help me out of this situation. Then Krishna will come forward and he will then free you from all your misgivings. The Purport Prabhupada says, the Lord has given Arjuna knowledge that is confidential, knowledge of the Brahman, and still more confidential knowledge of the super soul within everyone's heart. And now he is giving the most confidential part of the knowledge. Just surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Krishna is stage by stage taking Arjuna to the highest level of fully understanding who Krishna is. And therefore, Krishna then, as Prabhupada is saying, that because he's giving the most confidential part of the knowledge, just surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that is the conclusion of the Bhagavad Gita. As Krishna is saying, always think of me, become my devotee, worship me, and offer your homage unto me. Thus you will come to me without fail. I promise you this because you are my very dear friend. So again, Krishna is emphasizing that just worship me. I'm giving you this opportunity to worship. Now the beauty is that if we understand Krishna, and Krishna says, always think of me, become my devotee, worship me, and offer your homage unto me. Now you think, well, what kind of God he is? He wants me to think about him all the time, and he wants me to devote myself to him and worship him, offer all homage unto him. And then he says, thus you will come to me without fail. So what kind of God he is? But remember, if you really understand Krishna, Krishna is the most transcendental personality and he reciprocates with you. As you are thinking of him, he's thinking of you. As you are devoted to him, he's devoted to you. As you worship him, he worships you. As you offer homage unto him, he offers homage unto you. So he is reciprocating. And this ideal thing, we can understand this reciprocation, that Sudama was always thinking of Krishna. Even though in his disposition as in a poverty-stricken situation, want of things, want of need of material facilities, but still he was not condemning anybody. I said, this is my lot. What is Krishna has given me, that is fine. But Krishna is still my friend, and he's always glorifying Krishna. And his wife turns around to him and says, Sudama, you're always talking about this Dwarkadish. Why don't you go and ask him for some help? He's your friend. Friends in need is friend indeed. He will help you. So of course, when Sudama goes to Krishna, Krishna is saying, Sudama, what took you so long to come to me? I was always thinking of you. So Krishna is always thinking of Sudama. He is remembering Krishna, Sudama in his childhood pastimes, wonderful interactions they had in Sandipani Muni's ashram. And Sudama is remembering Krishna. So both are remembering each other. So it's not a one-way street. Then Sudama is devotee of Krishna. And of course, Krishna is a devotee of Sudama, because when he comes, what does Krishna do? He worships him, washes his feet, offers homage unto him. And this is what Krishna says, that as you reciprocate with me, I will reciprocate with you. Come to me and I'll come to you. So it is not in a derogative way or in a negative way. Krishna says, become friends with me and I'll become friends with you. So the most confidential part of knowledge is that one should become a pure devotee of Krishna and always think of him and act for him. One should not become an official meditator. Life should be so molded that one will always have a chance to think of Krishna. One should always act in such a way that his all daily activities are in connection with Krishna. One should arrange his life in such a way that throughout the 24 hours, he cannot but think of Krishna. And the Lord's promise is that anyone who is in such pure Krishna consciousness will certainly return to the abode of Krishna, where he will be engaged in the association of Krishna face to face. The most confidential part of knowledge is spoken to Arjuna because he is the dear friend of Krishna. Everyone who follows the path of Arjuna can become dear friend of Krishna and obtain the same perfection as Arjuna. So Prabhupada is emphasizing here that we should create everything in such a way that 24/7 we are focused on Krishna, thinking of Krishna and pleasing Krishna. And then if we do that, then perfection will come to us as perfection has come to Arjuna. So in text 66, finally Krishna says, all that I have told you will bring you slowly to the highest platform. And what is that platform? Krishna said, abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. So Krishna is saying now that finally, if you really understand me, trust me, depend on me, surrender unto me, I'll free you from all reactions and fear. So the ideal understanding is of Vamanadev and Bali Maharaj. Although Bali Maharaj was thinking that here is a young Brahmana and is a king, although he is Asura king, the grandson of Prahlad Maharaj, who inherited the kingdom of Hiranyakashipu, but still, since he is the grandson of Prahlad, his heart was situated in a proper way, and he thought that this is my duty as a king. I must give charity to Brahmanas. So young Vamanadev comes and asks for 3 steps of land, and Bali Maharaj thinking 3 steps of land is what a big deal. I am the master of the 3 worlds. Little, 3 square feet of land is not a big thing. Yes, I will give it to you. Then, of course, when the king, Bali Maharaj, is saying, yes, I will give it to you, then Vamanadev expands his body, and first he takes over the heavenly planets. Second, he takes over the earthly planets. Then third step, he takes away the lower planetary system. Now he's saying to Bali Maharaj, what have you got, have to give me now? In first 2 steps, he takes everything. And then the third step, he says, I have nothing, but I have my head. I have myself. I'll give myself to you. So then he simply surrenders to the Supreme Lord Vamanadev. And this is the conclusion. You have to simply surrender to Krishna. And if you surrender to Krishna with full knowledge, then Krishna says, I will now free you from all fear, and there is no cause of concern. So the last one of the smile is E, the end result. The end final conclusion is in text 67 to 78. So in 68, Krishna says now, for one who explains this supreme secret to the devotees, pure devotional service is guaranteed. And at the end, he will come back to me. So Krishna is saying that once you surrender to me and you understand and experience this wonderful, blissful life of full surrender to Krishna, and Krishna is taking charge of you, and you are very blissfully living your life and existence, what do? Krishna says, then you give this secret to others, because don't be a miser. What you are experiencing, you should be distributing it freely, and therefore give it to others. So Krishna says, explain this supreme secret to devotees. And of course, Prabhupada will explain further, saying that this should not be explained to non-devotees. A genuine guru is God's representative, and he speaks about God and nothing else. So of course, we always take shelter of Srila Prabhupada, who is our preeminent Shiksha Guru. He is giving us guidance. He is the one who is enlightening us of who Krishna is. And therefore, we must very clearly understand what Prabhupada is giving us. And we should be very grateful and show our gratitude to Srila Prabhupada by sincerely becoming a good devotee and follow his instruction, and thereby doing justice to Prabhupada's compassion upon us. So generally it is advised that Bhagavad Gita be discussed among the devotees only. For those who are not devotees will understand neither Krishna nor Bhagavad Gita. So of course Prabhupada is elaborating, and Krishna is also saying that this should be explained only to devotees. So if you're not a devotee, then you will not understand Krishna or the teachings of Bhagavad Gita, and therefore you may commit offense against the Supreme Lord, and that will be very detrimental to one's life, because if you start committing offenses against Krishna and his devotees, then your spiritual beginning will never happen. But those who do not accept Krishna as he is and Bhagavad Gita as it is should not try to explain Bhagavad Gita whimsically and become offenders. So we have to be very careful that we first of all create an inquisitiveness in someone. And then when they're inquisitive about Krishna, then you say, yes, now that you're asking me about Krishna, I will tell you about Krishna. So there is no secret in this world more dear to me. There is no servant in this world more dear to me than he, nor there will ever be more dear to me. So Krishna is saying there, this servant who is doing this service of preaching my message to others, he'll be more dear to me. There will be none more dear to me than him. He will be the most dearest to me. So if you really want to seek Krishna's favor, then whatever knowledge we have been granted by mercy of Guru and Gauranga, we give it to others, and therefore we become very dear to Krishna. So our relationship with the Bhagavad Gita can be on different levels. So this, in concluding, is that one, read the book. So we must always regularly read Bhagavad Gita. Even if you have read it once and twice, even if you read 50 times, you will get ever fresh inspirations from Bhagavad Gita, because Bhagavad Gita is a transcendental book, no different from Krishna, and as Krishna is described as Navi Yavanam, ever fresh and youthful. So his words are ever fresh and youthful. Second, live the book. So we should live our life according to the instructions of Bhagavad Gita. And if we live by the book, which is Bhagavad Gita, then our lives will be perfect, and then we share the Gita with others. So read the Gita, live the Gita, share the Gita, and of course, give it to others. And if you give this to others, then we are fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness and following the instructions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And therefore, Krishna says, "Oh Arjuna, Arjuna says, my dear Krishna, O infallible one, my illusion is now gone. I have regained my memory by your mercy. I am now firm and free from doubt and am prepared to act according to your instructions." So earlier on, we understood Krishna says, you deliberate on this and you decide what you want to do. And finally, Arjuna is saying, my dear Krishna, you are the infallible one. My illusion is all gone. I've regained my memory. I am now firm and free from doubt and prepared to act according to your instruction. So now Arjuna is submitting himself to Krishna. I am free from all doubt. I am firm and my conviction is firm. I am going to do just as what you want me to do. So then Krishna is saying that just surrender. And as Prabhupada says in the purport, the constitutional position of the living entity is represented by Arjuna. So all of us are represented by Arjuna. Is that he has to act according to the order of the Supreme Lord. He is meant for self-discipline. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that the actual position of the living entity is that of eternal servant of the Supreme Lord. Jivere Swarupoy Nitya Krishna Das. Eternally we are servant of Krishna. Forgetting this principle, the living entity becomes conditioned by material nature, but in serving the Supreme Lord, he becomes the liberated servant of God. The living entity's constitutional position is to be the saviator. He has to serve either illusionary Maya or the Supreme Lord. So Prabhupada said that as a living entity, we have to serve because we are obliged by the senses to be engaged in some kind of activities. And because we are an active person, we are not an inert object. We are an active object. We are living beings. So therefore, a living being will always be active in some form or other. And here Krishna is saying, and Prabhupada is elaborating that either you will be serving illusionary Maya by your senses and engaging in illusionary activities, which will be thinking that maybe it will bring us happiness, but we all know, chewing the chewed, getting all the same result every time, disappointment, or we serve the Supreme. And of course, Supreme Lord says, if you do this, then you will get the highest benefit of greatest blissful Krishna consciousness, and you will not be suffering in this material world. So the world is teaching us what? The world says, And the world is all based on this principle. Serve me and try to be happy. So we are trying to serve the world, the worldly people, the society, the community, the country, and we are trying to be happy. Everyone is not trying to be miserable. You ask any person, Northern Hemisphere, Southern Hemisphere, Eastern Hemisphere, Western Hemisphere, every country, every nook and corner of this world where there's people, and you approach with folder and say, my dear sir or madam, what are you looking for? I want happiness and peace. So they're all looking for this. But the world is saying, hey, come, serve me, do worldly things, and you will be happy. But of course, that is not a fact, as we are all trying for from the beginning of our existence. And we're still trying until along comes Srila Prabhupada and says, wake up, living souls, wake up. Jeev Jago, Gora Chandra Bole. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has come to give this love of Godhead. Awaken from your slumber and take to this process. So Gita teaches us, serve Krishna and be happy. It's very simple. If we take to the shelter of Krishna by the instructions given in the scriptures and by the spiritual master, represented in this case by the acharyas and the parampara, then we simply become happy, because serving Krishna means being happy. So thank you very much, Hare Krishna. I hope this is of some help. I try to condense the whole 18th chapter in just under 2 hours, but I hope that that is going to bring us happiness and free us from our illusion. So I will now open the floor for any comments, any questions.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj. Maharaj, I will now switch. You have stopped the sharing of the screen? Yes.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj.
Otherwise, I cannot see everyone.
First of all, absolutely wonderful that you covered the entire 18th chapter. I was not sure that
Well, I was in two minds myself, whether I do it in 2 parts or 3 parts, because it's a lot to cover. And I thought, okay, I will condense in such a way that I'll take the bullet points, but the message
absolutely.
is you won't lose
the message. I think you encapsulated it so very well, and particularly that moment where you said read it, live it, and give it. And I think it is a very appropriate message to all of us in December, which is the marathon month.
The BBT's motto is,
that's right,
give it.
Yes, absolutely. So I think it's a message to all of us from you, and we will certainly make all sincere attempts to not only dive deep into the Bhagavad Gita, 1, 2, to live the principles of Bhagavad Gita, and 3rd, most importantly, to give it to everyone also. So thank you again, Maharaj. And we have a question from Anupama Radharani Mataji. Hare Krishna, Maharaj, please accept my respectful obeisances. Thank you for a wonderful class. Can you please shed light on verse 18.14? Isn't everything predestined by our karma and the Lord's sanction? So, question on verse 18.14. And Maharaj, there is the next part to it. In 18.8, it is stated that one who gives up prescribed duties as troublesome is said to have renounced in the mode of passion. How do we understand King Anga's renouncing his kingdom due to the cruel deeds of his son Vena? So there are 2 questions actually.
So the first one is that no doubt that everything is predestined in terms of understanding that whatever we do in terms of action, good or bad, the reactions are going to be there. So these reactions are predestined. So as in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, yam vapi smaram bhavam ante kalevaram, that whatever actions are performed in this life, we get that body in next life, and we continue in that life and fulfill all the results of that actions, whether good or bad. So we may get opulence or we may get suffering. So this is predestined in that way. So in that context, we have to see that it is we who are predestining our life of how we want. That's why Krishna is saying that do activities in such a way that you are freed from further entanglement. Therefore, Krishna says to Arjuna that neither do pious deeds or impious deeds, simply do bhakti. And every action we perform, if it's done in the mood of devotion, in the mood of bhakti, then that will actually free us from further bondage. And as Krishna says, then I'll free you and you will surely come to me. So that is the one aspect which we can understand, that everything is predestined, but it is not predestined by the will of God or Krishna. It is predestined by our own doing. Therefore, Krishna says, as we saw in towards the end of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, and Prabhupada says, the living entity has his own free choice. Krishna doesn't interfere with that minute independence. And therefore, Krishna is saying to Arjuna, you do what you want, you deliberate on this message. I have given you this understanding. Now, after all this knowledge I have given you, the most confidential knowledge, you please decide what you want to do. After your deliberation, you tell me as you wish, and then we'll go forward from that. So, Krishna is not giving us predestiny. Our destiny is created by us. He has given us the field of action, and you perform your action according to your desire. As you do them, then results will come. There's a saying in English, as you sow, you will reap. So if you plant wheat grains, you will get wheat grains. If you plant rice, you will get rice. And if you plant weeds, then you get weeds. But there's no point expecting rice or wheat from weeds. If whatever you plant, that is what you're going to get. So in other words, whatever actions you perform, that is what you're going to get. So it is very clear that that is the understanding. Now, as far as King Anga is concerned, he was very much disappointed by his son's activities, and he could not control him. So therefore, he said that better I renounce, because I am not doing my service or doing justice to my service as a king. As a king, I am supposed to give guidance. As Prabhupada explains, the king, in traditional sense, is a representative of the Supreme Lord, and therefore, as a representative of the Supreme Lord, he is supposed to guide his citizens on the path of devotion. So, of course, he gave up his kingdom, and then King Vena took over. And then King Vena, he became very atrocious and obnoxious character. Then the Brahmanas thought that this is not very good for the society. So the Brahmana says, we must take some action. Therefore, by Brahmana's action, King Vena's body was given up, and they churned his body, and then all the bad things came out of King Vena's body, as explained that the black man ran away, not in a derogative way, but generally darkness is described as black. So all the evil things are in that darkness without light. And then King Prithu came, and then Prithu Maharaj established the real rule of a king. So we have to take in the spirit that sometimes we may be put in a position where we cannot do justice in our own position. So then we say, well, better I move away from this, because this is determination. If you keep doing it, then that determination is again in more of passion or more of ignorance. So that determination which gives proper results, as we mentioned in the 18th chapter, that is what will give you enthusiasm, and you will be more determined to do things, because the results are coming according to your expectation and in a positive way. So that's my take on that.
Thank you, Maharaj. So what I'm going to do now is, I know there is Madan Mohan Prabhu, whose hand is up, and I'm going to make everyone, So Hare Krishna, Madan Mohan Prabhu, would you like to unmute and ask your question?
Hare Krishna, Gandharvanam Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Devadas. Maharaj, in third chapter, Karma Yoga, Krishna says that the spirit soul bewildered by influence of false ego thinks himself the doer of activities.
Can you repeat that?
Are actually carried out by three modes of material nature. Activities carried out by three modes of material nature.
Madan Mohan Prabhu, little slowly, can you ask the question again?
Maharaj, in Karma Yoga, Krishna says that activities carried out by three modes of material nature.
Yes.
Today in 15th chapter, that whatever right or wrong action a man performed by body mind is caused by the 5 factors. The 5 factors are body, performer, various senses, that different kinds of endeavor, ultimately the super soul. What is the difference between these 5 factors and the 3 modes of material nature, Maharaj? The actions are performed by 3 modes of material nature. Krishna says in Karma Yoga here that action caused by these 5 factors, Maharaj. Just I have some doubt.
Basically, Krishna is explaining that in that chapter where he's talking about karma yoga, all the actions which we perform are in 3 categories. There is a category of ignorance, passion, or goodness. And as you perform this, then the results will come. So in the 18th chapter where Krishna is saying there's 5 factors, the performer, the body is an instrument where it allows us to use this body along with the senses to perform actions. And then actions can be in different ways, which either are freeing us from entanglement or entangling us. So in my slide, I showed that all these will lead us to the 4 categories which Krishna is saying according to Vana Ashram Dharma. And Krishna says Chaturvanya Maya system. These 4 ashrams, 4 vanas, I have created to enable mankind to perform their duties according to their nature. So when you do that, under the guidance of the super soul in the heart, the super soul in the heart will only take over your guidance when we submit to him. That, dear Lord, I want your shelter, I want guidance from you. Then Krishna will give you the guidance. Otherwise, Krishna says you are in your own free will, you do whatever you want. But at any rate, whatever actions and activities you perform, by using your senses, by using your body, that will be in the mode of ignorance, mode of passion, or mode of goodness. And either 3 of these are all binding to you. Therefore, Krishna says that even mode of goodness is not good enough. You rise above that, rise above mode of goodness. And that is why Krishna says to Arjuna, come to the Vishuddha Sattva platform, pure mode of goodness, which is transcendental to this material nature. As long as in the material world, these 3 modes of material nature will be there, and all our activities will be based on either modes. So Krishna says, create a proper environment where you are transcending the 3 modes of material nature, and you come on a transcendental platform where you transcend these modes. And when you are on a transcendent mode, then your activities, when you perform those for the pleasure of Krishna, it is not material, it is spiritual. Even though we are in the material world, still the activities are spiritual, and therefore we are in a spiritual environment, and therefore we won't be affected by material nature.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Okay. Maharaj, can we have, it's actually 9:05, so one last question. Please unmute yourself, and then you could ask the question from Maharaj.
Can you put a screen on where I can see people? I'm only seeing myself.
Just one sec, Maharaj. Yes, you'll be. Can you see it now, Maharaj?
Now I'm only seeing you.
I've actually removed the spotlight, Maharaj.
The
And
spotlight is on you now.
no, now it should be the gallery view, as they call it.
No, I can't see. I can only see you. Full screen.
Oh, is it? This is strange, Maharaj. I'm not able to. Generally, what we do is exactly what I'm doing. So let's say if you're able to see the devotee who asked questions. So one last question, anybody?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
Maharaj, actually I was trying to understand when Lord Shri Krishna was instructing to Arjuna, please do your prescribed duties. Okay, what it is exactly means, because sometimes when we preach prescribed duties means, as a Gragasthas, we have to do our prescribed duties. That is what whoever comes, they think that, okay, we have to live for our family, we have to be very truthful, whatever we are doing, like if they are going to work, they have to do their duties perfectly. That is what they are understanding. The next level of prescribed duties, how we can preach to them, Maharaj,
No,
because it.
yeah,
Yeah, Maharaj.
you have to understand that when Krishna is talking about prescribed duties, and as I mentioned in the slides, there are 4 ashrams and 4 varnas. So all of us, by our own natural affinity, we will belong to either a Brahman quality, Kshatriya quality, Vaishya quality, or Shudra quality. That is it's natural,
Yes,
and
Maharaj.
not that by birth, that if you're born a Shudra family, that you'll be a Shudra. You may be born in a Shudra family, but if you get very highly educated, you can become a doctor. Not necessarily you have to do Shudra work. Or you may be born in a doctor's family, and the son or daughter say, I'm not interested in medicine. I'm interested in sports, or I'm interested in something else. So then they will step down from their position as a doctor to be something else. So this is by nature. Nature will tell us how to best know our own nature is what makes us comfortable in the service which we render. So whether we render a Brahmanical service, or Kshatriya service, or Vaishya service, or Sudra service. Then the next category is division of our life. In the beginning stage, we are students. Then next stage, we take to the household life, and then we become as a vanaprastha, you kind of socially distance yourself with your social responsibilities. And then at the end, when you are like 70 something age, one or the other partner will definitely depart from this world. And sometimes both will depart same time, which is a boon. But either way, and whichever partner is left behind will continue for spiritual endeavorment till they depart from this world in perfection. So there are duties according to your varna and your ashram. So in a household duty, there is household duties. Now we should not get them mixed up with the varnas and ashram duties. There are 2 different categories. The type of work you do is different varna. And the type of duties you execute according to your ashram is your social duties. As a student, you are supposed to simply serve the guru and learn from him and mold yourself and mature yourself that you can take responsibility. And as a householder, you have social duties to your family and your society and your community. Then as a vanaprastha, then you distance yourself all these things and become more spiritually, engage more spiritually rather than social duties, so forth. So these are naturally described by the Supreme Lord that we fell into these categories. So in the talk I gave, I mentioned very clearly that doesn't matter what kind of work you do. If you go into an office and you're doing some work in the office which is nothing to do with Krishna consciousness, but if your mind is thinking that I am working in this office so that I am earning a livelihood, which is my duty to fulfill my social duty for my family, because if you don't earn a livelihood, how are you going to take care of your family? Then you'll be neglecting your duty. So when you actually do your service and get remuneration in forms of salary or wages, then you take this and then you use that in the service of Krishna and your families. Hopefully the family is devotees. So therefore you are engaging that money which you have earned through your work for the pleasure of Krishna and his devotees. So it becomes non-binding, it becomes devotional. But if you just live a normal life, as what normal society says, you go and earn your money and then enjoy your money and fully try to satisfy your senses with the materialistic view of enjoying the world, then that will have karmic reaction. That is not doing duty as prescribed in the scriptures. So in the beginning of the chapter, Prabhupada said, all duties, all performance, everything should be done in conjunction with the scriptures. And scriptures, as Prabhupada says, are coming from the Supreme Lord. Either it is spoken by the great devotees of the Lord speaking about Krishna, or Krishna himself speaks in terms of Bhagavad Gita, where the Supreme Lord is speaking himself. And therefore, we have to have very clear understanding of our connection with spirituality. And therefore, we have to differentiate with normal society world and a devotional spiritual life. So those of us who are by good fortune have come to Krishna consciousness, obviously, we will live our life according to the principles of Krishna consciousness, and thereby we'll be, making progress in our spiritual journey. And as Krishna says, if you do this with determination and endeavor, with proper consciousness, surely you'll come to me, and I will take care of the rest. So Krishna is giving us that opportunity. But don't worry about the result. I'm looking out after you because you have now surrendered to me. You have given yourself to me and decided that you'll follow my guidance. Then now, since I'm guiding you, then I'm responsible for your life. And therefore, Krishna will free us from any further repeated birth and death.
Thank you, Maharaj. In this aspect only, just want to extend. There are, they are not devotees. They are very sincere, loyal to the company, and they are working very hard. They wanted to be very sincere. Maybe their motive is not earning money, but they are very sincere and very loyal to the company, want to earn the money for the family to run the Grahastha's life. That is the motive should be. May not be material enjoyment, but for survival or to the material, they are very, very sincere. Assume that they are not enjoying. But whereas the devotees, like if they are not sincere in their prescribed duty, what my duty is, like if I am working, if I am not sincere, because I am sincere, I do go and do my work. Okay. Most of the time, I would like to spend more time on Krishna. Okay. I want to, because I am earning, I wanted to go to work to, as you rightly mentioned, for the service of the Lord. I want to use it for the service of the Lord. Okay. So what is very important? Like for me, I'm not able to concentrate. My duty is, okay, I have to be very sincere and do my work sincerely, and I should be loyal. But I am not, because I want to spend time for Krishna. I want to do my sadhanas. I want to spend more time for Krishna. So the mind, it is not both the social as well as the spiritual thing.
See, you have to see everything in balance. In order to have a quality time for your practice of spiritual life, your sadhana, your bhakti, then to facilitate that, you have to earn a livelihood. And if you are sincerely working for a company, the company will see, not in a spiritual way, but the company who is employing you will say, yes, you are a sincere, loyal worker. You are very sincere to the company. You are working for the benefit of the company's profit. And therefore, we are also very happy to give you a salary and not, dispense with you. They say, oh, you are a disloyal person. You're not doing your justice to the job you have been given. Therefore, I'm afraid you have to leave the job. If you leave the job, no more salary, and then you'll be in anxiety, and then you cannot finance your duties as a householder. You cannot serve Krishna nicely. So it'll be more anxiety. So you have to find a balance. And that is why I say that every one of us, whether we are in a Brahman nature or a Kshatriya nature or a Shudra nature or Vaishya nature, doesn't matter. How to find out what we are best at is that you should feel very comfortable with your situation, not what others think of your situation, but how you feel in your own heart. If you feel comfortable with yourself, that yes, what I'm doing, I'm comfortable, then that is your nature. And then you do that nature duty very nicely, and then facilitate your bhakti, your sadhana, your chanting, your worshipping Krishna, and preaching about Krishna. You find out a balance. Although I say, you may say, oh, I want to give up my job and just go full-time preacher. Of course, you can't do that because you have taken responsibility. You have a husband, you have children, you have, your household duties, social duties towards your family. You can't just abandon that. Because Krishna says, if you abandon your duty, then it is sinful.
Okay.
And then at the same time, I did not bring that verse up, but there is a verse where Krishna says, it is better to do your own duty imperfectly than do others' duty perfectly.
Okay.
So you may do someone else's duty nicely, but that is wrong. So it is, Krishna says, better to do your own duty, which is naturally for you, even if it is imperfect, but you will be feeling comfortable because you are doing what comes natural to you. And what is not natural to you, but you do because maybe you have some expertise, then you are doing someone else's duty perfectly. This is not correct. Therefore, we have to find a balance. And one is, as I said, myself personally, I say, you should feel very comfortable in your execution of Krishna consciousness. 2, you should take guidance from your spiritual master. That if you have any doubts or any misconceptions, then as Krishna says in the concluding verses, that Krishna will give you the guidance. The spiritual master will give you guidance and free you from your doubts. That is why Arjuna is approaching Krishna saying, now I have doubts. Krishna, tell me, in the beginning of the chapter 18, Krishna says, Arjuna is saying, I have doubts. I don't know about this renunciation and renouncing and this and that. And I have so many doubts. So Krishna is one by one clearing his doubt. And then finally in the concluding verses, what is Arjuna saying? Now that you have cleared all my doubts, I am firmly fixed now. Now I know my vision is clear. I know what to do. And now I'll embark on that. So similarly, in our position is like that we take guidance from the scriptures, we take guidance from the spiritual master if we have any doubts. And that doubts will be cleared by scriptures and the spiritual master. And then we have a clear path ahead of us where we know exactly what we are doing and how we are progressing forward.
Haribol. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare Krishna. So thank you again, Maharaj. We will come to the end of the session. Now, yet another wonderful session for Maharaj. So I wanted to end with, something I wanted to share that relates to what we are doing together with Maharaj. This is from the introduction to the 5th canto, 18th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam. In the introduction, it is said, all the information in this chapter, obviously the chapter that it is referring there is the 18th chapter of the 5th canto, but we can take it for the normal readings that we do for our Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam. All the information in this chapter can be fully realized by one who associates with devotees of the Lord. Therefore, in the Shastras, it is recommended that one associate with devotees. This is better than residing on the banks of the Ganges. We are extremely grateful to Maharaj for giving his exalted association to all of us and taking us through.
Exalted association, but I am indeed grateful to all the devotees who are allowing me to associate with them.
Thank you. We are very grateful, Maharaj. We are very grateful, and honestly speaking, we get these wonderful opportunities. So I would also request all the assembled Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis to also visit the School of Vedic Studies channel on YouTube and revisit these wonderful sessions for our own, study systematically. And also we, as you all know, that we are also doing the transcription of these sessions, particularly Anasuya Mataji and Sunaja Mataji, and soon we will have those transcriptions also to share with all of you, besides the PowerPoints, which Maharaj very kindly shares with all of us, which I will send to all of you anyway. So on that note, on behalf of the School of Vedic Studies and all the assembled Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis, we say thank you to you again from the bottom of our hearts, Maharaj. Bless us all that we can all read the Bhagavad Gita, live the Bhagavad Gita, and give the Bhagavad Gita to one and all. Thank you so much. So everyone can switch on their videos and say Hari Bol, good night and goodbye to Maharaj.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna Maharaj. Hari Bol. Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Dandavat Pranam.
Thank you so much,
Hare
Maharaj.
Krishna Maharaj.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Dandavat Maharaj. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So let's say our prayers of respects to Maharaj.
Vancha kalpataruvasya kirvasindhivasya bhutanam bhavane Namo Namaha.
His Holiness Atmanivedana Swami Maharaj ki
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai.
Amaveda Bhakta Vrinda ki
Jai.
Bhagavad Gita as it is ki Jai.
Jai.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna Maharaj. Hare Krishna Maharaj. Thank you Maharaj. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you. Dandavat Pranam.
Thank you.